What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Guys, back in Europe, we got another difference video here with America and Europe. And as you see by the title, we got why Euro-Spec cars are safer and better looking. If you've been with me along this journey, I've talked about the car I got, which is a Dodge Challenger, and two-door car. I like it. It's a sports car. I like sports cars and stuff like that. But it's one of those cars, I'm telling you, it's almost like a can. Like I've seen somebody get hit and it just smushes up, you know. But it would suck if somebody was going super fast and doing all that in certain cars because they're not as safe when it comes to impact. But yeah, we got Euro-Spec cars versus North American Spec cars. And we're going to check this out, see what it's about. I've done a video with the difference between these cars, the two types of cars from the different countries. But let's check it out.
North American spec cars and European spec cars. There's a lot of differences between North American spec vehicles and European spec vehicles. And I don't mean just the size or the types of vehicles
Seen
offered,
that car before.
but actually the legal and regulatory differences between North American spec cars and European spec cars. It's something that the average consumer probably doesn't know, but car enthusiasts know about these differences, and we often refer to EU spec or rest of world spec versus North American spec. Today I want to cover the differences between North American spec vehicles and European spec vehicles, and why I believe European spec vehicles are actually safer than North American spec vehicles because of these differences. So let's jump into it.
American X-Spec automotive enthusiasts in Amsterdam. Nice.
So before moving to the Netherlands, I was used to North American spec vehicles and the look of North American spec vehicles. Things like amber parking lights, side markers, red turn signals. But actually, after living in the Netherlands and spending more time with European spec vehicles, I realized European specs are actually safer and actually better looking. You don't have the amber parking signal. You don't have amber turn signals in the rear. You know, there's a lot of these differences I'm going to jump into. So go ahead and use the chapter markers if you want to bounce around and see the differences.
Okay.
But I'm going to cover all of these in a bit more detail. Also, it's worth mentioning that the US and Canadian specs are pretty much the same. Canada uses kilometers and requires daytime running lights. But aside from that, basically the specs of the cars and the regulatory differences are the same between Canada and the United States. Europe has a different spec, and it's also in line with a lot of other countries that's outside of Europe, and those are the main differences that I'm going to compare today. All right, the first thing is the one that I'm the most passionate about, and that's red turn signals versus amber turn signals.
Okay, I never noticed, and I've seen different videos with European cars. I never noticed this, how small this light is, how it's only really just two blinks.
The rest of the world has amber turn.
I've never noticed that at all. And most of North America, this is once you press the brake. I mean, for me, I feel like the brake, once you hit the brake, all of these lights turn on right here. Oh, this is Florida. Okay.
Signals like this. It is safer. It is easier to distinguish between the brake lights and the turn signal. The rest of the world does this.
Okay.
In North America, red turn signals are allowed. And not just red turn signals, but actually the same light fixture that's used as the brake sometimes is used as the turn signal.
Yep.
In some cars, it's a separate bulb from the brake light, but they're still red. In this case, in the Mercury Grand Marquis, as you can see, it's the brake light that's flashing to be the turn signal. This has always driven me nuts, even when I lived back in the States, because it's hard to distinguish when a car is braking versus turning. You have to pay a little bit more attention because it's hard to distinguish, you know, is the red.
But for the most part, usually with a blinker, one side will only blink. When they press the brake, both sides, you'll see both. I feel like that's an easy distinction right there. But
braking versus turning, you have to pay a little bit more attention because it's hard to distinguish.
True.
You know, is the red light turning on because it's the brakes? Is it turning on because it's the turn signal? Sometimes bulbs are out and it's hard to tell. So I've always been passionate about this. This is how it should be. This is how the rest of the world is, and this is how it should be. But this is
definitely seen many times. Because there were times where my bulbs went out on one of my older cars. My first car had a lot of problems. That's where I really learned the manufacturing of cars and all that stuff. Because my first car, my goodness, tire problems, dealing with changing the lights and all those things like that. I learned a lot off of my first car. I haven't had those problems because I've got more of a newer car, which I've had for years. So
is allowed in North America, and it's actually quite common. And I've even heard from American car people that they prefer the look of the red turn signal, even though amber is objectively safer. So the Mercury Grand Marquis, even though it's here in the Netherlands, actually has red turn signals. The Netherlands is one of the few countries in the world that does allow red turn signals. There are some European countries and other countries that do allow it. So it's one of the things I didn't have to adapt when I brought the car over here. But objectively, I believe the amber turn signal is much better. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What do you prefer, red turn signals or amber turn signals? There's even a whole Facebook group dedicated to this. I think a lot of people are passionate about this topic, but yeah, I believe amber turn.
It's definitely important, you know, safety on the roads and stuff like that. Because I just seen a video, was it on Twitter? Seen a video on Twitter or Facebook, and this person, nobody was in front of them, but they just slammed on their brakes, you know, and of course the person behind them just rams into them. And I know in Texas, I think it's a law, like you really got to give somebody space. So the person that was behind the person that slammed on their brakes will probably be at fault, which sucks because, like I said, there was nobody in front of that person, but they slammed on their brakes. So, and then again, like you said, I was always taught, you see somebody press on their brake, you press on your brake, you know, no matter how far you are, the distance between you and that person in front of you, because you just, like you said, you just can't tell. You just can't tell how far that person is with those lights, and then you approaching them and boom, anything can happen. So that's what I've always been told. You see somebody press their brake, you press yours.
Turn signals are much better and much safer for drivers. The next big difference that I want to cover is amber parking lights, or side markers as they're also called. It's a bit hard to see here because in the Mercury they changed out the bulb, but in North America, most cars have an amber side marker parking light that is required as part of the headlight system. Whereas you see here on the BMW, the parking lights don't require that. And if you look at a US spec BMW 3 Series, there's a big amber side marker light here, which I think is quite ugly. It's a look that I was used to back when I lived in the States, but actually after living abroad, I realized this is a much cleaner look. And actually, what value does that amber side marker light add? I don't think it's necessary. Much cleaner look. Here in the Mercury, they converted the light to white, but it was an amber parking light, the same here. But yeah, it's just a difference that I don't think is necessary. And I think the European spec looks a lot better than North American spec.
I wonder how old, too, this car is that he got. Because I feel like now, well, I can't really say now, because mine's got that too. Mine's is a 2021. I have a 2021. I believe mine's have that. But I was going to say, would have been nice because some of the older cars were kind of, had a lot of things going on too.
And I think the European spec looks
versus
a lot better than North
cars.
American spec. The next big difference is side turn signal indicators. So the EU and pretty much the rest of the world require side turn signal indicators. Most of the time they're integrated in the mirror like this now, but back in the day they used to be side.
I think some new cars here
like you see on the Mercury here. North America doesn't require this, and to me this is a key safety feature because when you're driving alongside a car and you want to know if that car is going to be moving into your lane, you can't see the front and rear turn signals if they're signaling their lane change. Side marker indicators.
More newer cars have this now. Mine don't. I believe I have a Grand Cherokee. I think that does. I know with our and he probably may or may not get to this, but even when somebody's by you, there's like a signal now that lets you know somebody's by you. I don't think ours is like that automatic, like to keep you from going into another car type of thing. But I believe I've seen cars with blinkers on the windshield, which is, like you said, I mean not the windshield, but the side mirrors, which are very easy to detect.
Are key, and really key is safety feature. Nowadays, most new cars in the US do have side marker indicators on the mirrors because it's kind of seen as a luxury feature.
Look at those lights.
And I think it's something that the European brands kind of influence in the North American market. And actually, if you look at something like a Toyota Corolla or a Hyundai in the US, by default, they don't have the side marker turn signals, but higher end trims do because it's kind of seen as a luxury feature because of the European brand influence in North America. But I do think this is a really key safety feature that should be required on all vehicles around the world. And it surprises me that in North America, it's not a safety requirement. It's not a required feature at all. Next thing I want to cover is rear fog lights. So in the EU and most other markets around the world, rear fog lights are a required feature or are just featured on cars. And they're usually on the driver's side or the center point of the vehicle. In this case, on the 3 Series, it's just on the driver's side. Personally, I would prefer if it was on both sides. But this helps with rearward visibility in poor conditions such as fog or heavy rain. And this is a really key safety feature that I wish was available or actually required in the United States.
I honestly didn't know there was a such thing because I know you have fog lights usually in the front, and I forgot. I'm thinking it's the same type of light, but in my wife's car, when you turn the light kind of get a little brighter as you're turning too. Forgot what it's called, but it might be the fog lights or I don't know. But it's a Jeep, so I feel like Jeeps are kind of following that.
In Canada,
Have
because
that
I've been in many
European type
situations
of
in Florida
style.
in really heavy rain where you can't see very far in front of you. You can't see the car in front of you. And what people in Florida do are put on their hazard lights so you can improve the
Oh yeah,
visibility, which is illegal and is kind of a dumb
that's
workaround.
what it is. The
Rear fog
hazard.
lights solve that problem. This is something that should be standard in the US and Canada. And actually, on European brands
Yeah, the hazard lights are so. I mean, I thought it was maybe it's
and
something
cars
Texas.
in the
Maybe
US
it's
and
a
Canada,
Texas
they
thing.
do offer the
I've
feature.
seen
They
that a
actually
lot.
just ship it there anyway. It's not required, but they leave the configuration as is, and they have the rear fog lights. And the funny thing that I see is people don't know how to use rear fog lights in the US and Canada. You can see some B-roll footage here of cars in Canada driving around with rear fog lights on in normal conditions,
Oh,
because actually I believe that people don't know the difference between the buttons, and they think that these are regular fog lights, but they're actually rear fog lights being misused.
I need to check
So
my
it's
car.
really funny to me, but I think if there was education and regulatory requirements in the United States and Canada for rear fog lights, people would use them and it would improve safety.
Yeah, cause I don't. I got my license or I got my permit first. What 20? Oh my goodness. Had to be 2011, 2012. Once I turned 18, was able to get my license, and it's crazy because it's one of those things where you don't even know if they're updating laws and all those things like that. Because I remember being pulled over just because I didn't know. We have a thing is you on the left lane for passing only, and I didn't. I just always stay in that lane because it's better to me. And one time a state trooper was behind me and pulled me over because he was like, "Hey, you wasn't passing nobody. You gotta get back up." I'm like, "What?" Because fast forward now, when I did my driving test and all that stuff, that's in 2011, 2012. It's been 10 plus years, and I don't know if things have changed or not. I'm just out here driving. So hopefully they updated all that stuff because nobody, unless you get like a ticket, that's when you're like updated on the different rules and all that stuff on the road. But yeah, I was just thinking about that. It's like I haven't had no safety, no road light safety type of information in a long time. So just imagine a lot of
The
people.
next difference I want to
They're like
cover is
40s
something
and
that I notice
50s.
each time that I'm switching between this vehicle and the BMW is the side mirrors. And this was something I didn't even really know about before living here. So in North America, the side mirrors on cars are a little bit different. The driver's side is pretty flat, and the passenger side is a bit more convex, but then it has this text in it that you see objects in mirror are closer than they appear. So you have different focal lengths for each of the mirrors.
Oh,
On the passenger side, it helps with the blind spot and side visibility, but on the driver's side, it's quite flat, and you have a pretty big blind spot. On the EU-Spec mirrors, both are convex, and there's even a part that acts like a blind spot mirror. So it's objectively safer because you have a
nice.
wider field of view, you have a smaller blind spot. The problem is the image is wider and the vehicles are a little bit smaller, which affects your perception of the size. And so in North America, they only allow that on the passenger side, which to me, it's a safety thing. If you allow it on both sides of the car,
That's
you have better
major.
field of view, smaller blind spot, and it's objectively safe. Next difference is license plates. And you can see American and Canadian style license plates are a lot smaller. In some cars, they look okay. Like this Grand Marquis was obviously designed for the smaller license plate.
Grand
But in
Marquis.
some other cars, this small format doesn't look very good. It doesn't complement the design of cars very well. And in my opinion, actually, the American and Canadian size license plate is a little bit less safe because the characters are smaller. You can see over here, if I were to take a Florida license plate and put it on a BMW 3 Series, which
Oh
is probably
yeah.
the first time this has been done, you can see
I
how
didn't know how
small it
small
is in
that is.
comparison to the Dutch license plate. The letters are a lot smaller. It's harder to see
Wow.
from further back. And actually, I think the Dutch license plate and the kind of European style wide license plate complements the look of the car a little bit better, especially in the front. So I think it's safer and it just looks better to have the European style license plates.
Okay.
Now this varies a lot. Different countries have different regulations about license plate sizes. I'm not going to go into all of those details, but let me know what you prefer. Do you prefer the European style license plates or do you prefer the American
I
style
didn't know how
license plate?
big
Let me know
it
in the
was.
comments below. Ultimately, I do wish that the regulations would align from North America to the rest of the world, because that would actually allow for European spec vehicles and other vehicles that are currently not sold in the North American market to actually be sold there, because the regulations would align and that would be allowed. But until those regulations align, which I don't think that'll ever happen, we'll have differences between North American spec vehicles and European and rest of the world spec vehicles. So that's pretty much it. Those are the main differences I wanted to cover between EU spec vehicles and North American spec vehicles. Like I said from the beginning, I prefer the look and safety features of European spec vehicles.
For sure.
But there are also some features I didn't cover in North American spec vehicles that are nice, like remote start, how some states don't require front license plates.
Yeah, because I think in Texas, I don't know, because I don't have a front license plate, but I never got in trouble for it. I just have a back. The type of car I got, so I don't know. Do have an engine start, do you have the automatic? I didn't know that was not illegal in some other
require front license plates,
countries.
Different safety features, and there's a lot of other differences that you can't see, such as suspension differences, tire differences. I can't cover all of those in one video, but these were the things that I wanted to cover that you can really see when you look at the two different vehicles, and those are the differences that I like on the European spec.
I'm definitely going to have to check out more of this.
Let me know what you think in the comments below. Am I crazy? Do you prefer the look of North American spec vehicles? Let me know in the comments below. Until the next time, thanks for watching.
Okay, that was pretty good. Yeah, like I said, they did look a whole lot safer. I didn't know they had those different type of features like that. Somebody said they prefer the European spec, especially the amber turn signals. Yeah, like I said, this is making me want to go. At least I know for my car is very basic. It's a very basic Dodge Challenger, but my wife's Jeep, it has a lot of key features that might be more relatable to the European style. So but yeah, I never noticed the license plate. The letters and numbers were bigger on the European vehicles. On the UK, indicators turn signal are illegal. Oh snap, didn't know that. Mexico also gets the EURO-Spec versions. Okay. Living in a border town in Texas right now. Right next to Mexico, you see Mexican cars all the time. So like German BMW, Mercedes, all these. I need to check my brother's car, because he has a Mercedes. But all in all, this is pretty interesting video. You just never know. This was a year ago. So he brought out the Grand Marquis. It's been a minute since I seen one of those. Used to see them often as a child, but other than that, it's making me want to go inspect my car. I'm gonna go inspect my car today and just look at some differences and look at some things that are the same. But other than that, that's all I have for this video. Y'all make sure y'all hit that subscribe button. Hey, send down those recommendations, and y'all be blessed, be the best, and be you. I'm out.